if you guys in the studio or anybody at home have picked up on this, but it's the time of year when somebody of Albert's stature and information base where we're starting to look at teams that didn't make the playoffs. I just kind of went Ravens, Steelers, because that's an important game this year, and already that has also implications about what happens in the next few weeks. So in the few minutes I have left with you, the 2-1 seeds from last year are out. It's only the 7th time that's happened in the Super Bowl era. One at a time here. Let's start with the Lions. What the next few weeks are going to be like as they pick through the ashes in Detroit. Albert.
Yeah, a lot of self-evaluation, I think. I think what they do with their offense is the front burner topic going forward for them. I can't imagine they run it back with Johnny Morton. They obviously, I think, fell on the sword, admitted that mistake when Dan Campbell took play calling back. And so, I think that's when we watch the Lions, they scored 1 million points still this year, but there was something about it that just wasn't quite the same. So, I think with the Lions, the first question is what you're doing on your coaching staff, and then I think that there's also a discussion to be had now with so many players in the prime of their career, entering the prime of their career. There's guys who are going to be up, for contracts. Like, you've got to take care of guys, like Jahmyr Gibbs and Brian Branch and, Jack Campbell. And there's lots of those, and that's a champagne problem to have. That means you've got good players on your roster. So I think as you're doing that, like, the question becomes, do we shift now from being this like draft and develop machine to, okay, we're going to pay these guys. Now we're in this window with this core of players. Do we do some things that are maybe just shots at going and competing for a championship? And I think for Brad Holmes, that's an interesting question because his background was with the Rams, and he was with the Rams during the F them picks era, like when they were trading for Jalen Ramsey and Matthew Stafford and going all in. And he's really been patient about the way that he's built in Detroit, and he hasn't done it that way. Is this the pivot point for them where, all right, like, now we've got our core of players. This isn't going to last forever. Jared Goff's in his 30s. Is this the point where we say, okay, like, we're going to sign a bunch of these guys, we're going to mortgage some of these contracts to create salary cap space, and we're going to make a real run at it? I think that's an important question for them to ask in the offseason.
And what about the Chiefs? Talk about changes. They're moving to Kansas in short order.
Long live Arrowhead, Rich. Long live Arrowhead.
And then Mahomes is he's already had knee surgery. We're waiting on what Kelsey's going to do. And Andy Reid was like, if they'll have me, I'll come back. What do the next few weeks look like for the Chiefs before I let you go on your Tuesday?
Yeah, I think this is like a lot like, Tom Brady got hurt at the same age, right? And I think if you look at the history of that, eventually it became a pivot point for the Patriots where it was, okay, like, we really got to sort of, and Bill literally took like evidence of championships off the walls in 2010. And they, Brady came back in 2009. They had a really sideways season. And then in 10, they went all in and they had a really good draft that year. And just, like, hey, we're going to build this back up from the ground up. And that first draft, they got Gronk, they got McCourty, they got Aaron Hernandez. And that wound up being the basis of, where they were going forward, drafted really well from then on. And I think that that's sort of where you are if you're the Chiefs now. I think the fact that, like, we're not sure if Mahomes is going to be back for week 1 because of the fact that this is a multi-ligament injury, and we'll see. I think it's too early to tell on that. I think, and you're not sure if you're getting the full Mahomes yet. And I'm sure he would clip this and, that's bulletin board material for him. He's going to work his ass off. I know who he is, but like, it's a reality. Year 1 coming back from this sort of injury can be a little bit different. And so, like, I think it puts the Chiefs in a position where you're looking at it and saying, do we, start to look at, like, not just 26, but 27 and beyond? What does that mean for Chris Jones? What does that mean for Travis Kelce? He might make that decision for himself. What does that mean for some of the younger players on our team? Some of the young defensive talent that we've built up. Karlaftis and Bolton are already on new contracts. McDuffie is going to need one this offseason. I think it just kind of puts the impetus on them to get younger across the board. And again, like, hit that pivot point the way the Patriots did. And maybe now you look at it and you say, okay, we got to build up some draft capital. We got to hit on more of our picks. And this gives us the chance to kind of evaluate all of that as a pivot point in trying to maybe go from Dynasty 1.0 with Patrick Mahomes to Dynasty 2.0.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.